If you've ever been told you can't grow food because your apartment doesn't get enough light, or your basement is too dark, or your winters are too long, this video is going to change everything. Because there is an entire category of plants that don't just tolerate darkness, they actually prefer it. Mushrooms that fruit in closets, sprouts that go from dry seed to fresh food in 3 days without a single ray of sunlight. Vegetables so improved by growing in the dark that they have earned the same legal protection as champagne. And the best part? Most of these do not need soil, special equipment, or a green thumb. A mason jar and a packet of seeds will get you started for about $5. These are 18 miracle plants that grow in pure darkness, and we are starting with the ones you can harvest this week. Before we get into the list, you should know that these 18 plants fall into 3 groups. The first group needs absolutely 0 sunlight. We are talking closets, basements, rooms without windows. The second group needs a dim window, like a north-facing sill that barely gets any direct sun. And the third group just needs a cheap LED bulb on a timer to do its thing underground. We are starting with the easiest, fastest, cheapest plants you can grow in total darkness. And by total darkness, I mean it. No window, no lamp, no nothing. Number 1. Mung bean sprouts. If you have ever had sprouts in a stir-fry at a Chinese restaurant, you have eaten mung bean sprouts. What makes them perfect for our purposes is that they actually grow better in the dark. Light makes mung bean sprouts bitter and tough. Darkness keeps them fat, crisp, and sweet. The setup could not be simpler. Take a mason jar, add about 1/3 cup of dry mung beans, and fill it with water. Let them soak overnight for about 8 to 12 hours. Then drain the water, cover the jar mouth with cheesecloth or a mesh sprouting lid, and tip the jar upside down at an angle so excess water drains out. That's it. That's the whole system. Rinse those beans with fresh water 2 to 3 times a day. Drain them and put the jar back in a dark cupboard. In 3 to 5 days, that 1/3 cup of dry beans will have turned into roughly 1/2 pound of fresh, crunchy sprouts. The ratio is about 2 to 3 times the weight of what you started with, sometimes even more. And the nutrition is wild. Sprouted mung beans contain about 6 times more antioxidants than the unsprouted version. They have been used in Chinese traditional medicine for thousands of years, and modern research shows they may help lower bad cholesterol levels. Total cost to get started? A bag of organic mung beans from the grocery store runs about $3 to $4 and will give you weeks of harvests. No soil, no light, no experience needed. But if mung beans are easy, the next sprout on this list is even easier. Number 2. Lentil sprouts. Lentils might be the single fastest food you can produce from a dry seed. They are technically edible after nothing more than a 12-hour soak. Just leave them in water overnight on your kitchen counter, drain them in the morning, and you have something you can toss into a salad or a soup. If you let them go another 2 to 4 days with regular rinsing, they will develop little tails and become proper sprouts with a mild, nutty flavor that works in just about everything. A 1/2 cup of lentil sprouts gives you roughly 6 grams of protein and 4 to 7 grams of fiber. Here is something that matters for anyone who has had trouble digesting beans and lentils in the past. The sprouting process breaks down the compounds that cause gas and bloating, so sprouted lentils are much gentler on your stomach than cooked ones. One more thing that makes lentils special. Dry lentils store for 5 years or more in a cool, dry place, which makes them one of the best emergency preparedness foods out there. You could stash a 10-pound bag in your pantry right now and know that years from now, you could still turn it into fresh food in a single day with nothing but a jar and some water. Now, the first two sprouts are about ease and speed. This next one is about something different entirely. Number 3, broccoli sprouts. These unassuming little sprouts might be the most nutritionally dense food you can grow at home, and the science behind them is staggering. In 1997, researchers at Johns Hopkins University published a landmark study that changed how the medical world thinks about broccoli. They found that broccoli sprouts contain 10 to 100 times more sulforaphane than a full head of mature broccoli. Sulforaphane is a compound that activates a specific protective pathway in your body, one that controls over 200 genes involved in fighting inflammation and protecting your cells. Clinical trials have tested sulforaphane in humans and found some remarkable results. In people with type 2 diabetes, it reduced fasting blood sugar. In people exposed to air pollution, it sped up the body's ability to flush out harmful chemicals. And in studies on brain health, it showed protective effects that researchers are still exploring. Growing them is identical to growing mung bean sprouts. Use a mason jar and a sprouting lid. Rinse the seeds twice a day and harvest in 4 to 6 days. Keep them in total darkness the whole time. One tip that makes a huge difference. When you eat your broccoli sprouts, sprinkle a tiny bit of mustard seed powder on top. The enzyme in mustard seed dramatically increases how much sulforaphane your body can actually absorb, up to 4 times more, according to research published in the British Journal of Nutrition. Broccoli sprout seeds are a bit pricier than mung beans or lentils, usually around $8 to $12 a bag, but each bag gives you dozens of batches. Given what you would pay for sulforaphane supplements at the health food store, growing your own sprouts is a bargain. All 3 sprouts so far share the same mason jar method. This next one takes the yield game to a completely different level. Number 4, alfalfa sprouts. If you want the most food from the least seed, alfalfa is the undisputed champion. 1 pound of alfalfa seed produces between 10 and 14 pounds of fresh sprouts. That is a 7 to 1 return on your investment by weight, and sometimes even higher. The method is the same mason jar approach, with one small difference. After 3 to 5 days in the dark, you can optionally give your alfalfa sprouts a day or two near a window to let them green up. That is purely cosmetic, though. They are perfectly nutritious and edible straight out of the dark cupboard. Alfalfa sprouts pack more chlorophyll than spinach, kale, or parsley. They are about 35% protein by dry weight, which is higher than you would expect from something that looks so delicate. Now, a quick safety note for all sprouts. Because they grow in warm, moist conditions, there is a small risk of bacterial contamination if you do not keep things clean. Always start with seeds sold specifically for sprouting. Rinse them thoroughly and eat your sprouts fresh. If anything smells off, compost it and start a new batch. Simple hygiene makes all the difference. So those are your 4 sprout options, and any one of them can be producing fresh food on your kitchen counter within a week. But now, we are moving into something completely different. We are leaving the plant kingdom altogether and stepping into the world of fungi. Number 5, oyster mushrooms. If you've never grown mushrooms before, oyster mushrooms are where you want to start. They're the most forgiving species, the fastest to produce, and they'll grow on just about anything organic you can find. Straw, hardwood sawdust, coffee grounds, even ripped up cardboard. Oyster mushrooms can break it all down. In commercial operations, growers use something called a master's mix, a 50-50 blend of hardwood sawdust and soy hulls. But at home, a pre-made grow kit is the easiest path. From a typical 5-pound sawdust block, you can expect about 1.5 to 2 pounds of fresh mushrooms across 2 or 3 flushes. A flush is just a wave of mushrooms that all fruit at the same time. After you harvest the first flush, you soak the block in water and wait for the next round. The whole process, from inoculation to first harvest, takes just 3 to 4 weeks, which makes oyster mushrooms the fastest indoor mushroom by far. They do need a little bit of light to fruit properly, but we're talking about the bare minimum. A single LED bulb in a closet, or even the ambient light from an open door, is enough. And they need humidity, so you'll want to mist them with a spray bottle 2 to 3 times a day. One more thing. Oyster mushrooms naturally contain a compound called lovastatin, which is the same family of drugs used to lower cholesterol. Eating mushrooms is not the same as taking medication, but it's an interesting fact about what you're getting when you grow your own. They come in beautiful colors too: blue, pink, golden, pearl white. Same growing method, totally different flavors and appearances. But oyster mushrooms still need a tiny bit of light. The next mushroom on this list needs almost none at all. Number 6. Enoki mushrooms. Enoki are the true darkness champions of the mushroom world. The long, thin, white-capped mushrooms you see in grocery stores are grown commercially in near total darkness with elevated carbon dioxide levels. The darkness keeps them pale, and the high carbon dioxide suppresses cap development, which gives them that signature spindly look. And enoki have a superpower that no other mushroom on this list can match. They can literally freeze, solid, thaw out, and keep right on growing. They are one of the most cold-tolerant organisms in nature, fruiting happily at temperatures between 45 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That is basement temperature in most homes during winter, and it makes them a perfect match for cold, dark spaces. The wild version of enoki looks nothing like the grocery store version. Wild enoki have broad brown caps on short stems, and you would never guess they are the same species. It is a dramatic example of how environment shapes an organism in biology. You can grow enoki at home in jars or bottles filled with hardwood sawdust mixed with rice bran. Colonization takes 2 to 3 weeks, and you will be harvesting in about a month. Number 7. Button mushrooms, cremini, and portobello. This might surprise you, but these 3 mushroom names all describe the exact same species at different stages of life. A button mushroom is just a young portobello. A cremini is a slightly older button, and a portobello is a fully mature cremini that has been allowed to open its cap. The species is called Agaricus bisporus, and it fruits in near total darkness. It is the most widely consumed mushroom on Earth, and it has one of the most fascinating histories of any food. In the late 1600s, farmers in Paris discovered that abandoned limestone quarries beneath the city were perfect for growing mushrooms. The caves stayed at a constant cool temperature year-round. They were pitch dark, and there was plenty of horse manure from the city above for substrate. By the 1880s, Over 300 farmers were working the underground tunnels, hauling out 3 million baskets of fresh mushrooms every single year. The French still call button mushrooms champignons de Paris because of those caves. One legend says the whole industry started when Napoleon's army deserters hid underground and noticed mushrooms sprouting from their horses' waist. The Paris metro subway construction in the 1890s destroyed most of the underground farms. But even today, a handful of traditional growers still work the old tunnels, supplying restaurants that insist the cave-grown mushrooms have a flavor the factory version cannot match. Growing button mushrooms at home uses composted manure as a substrate, and fruiting temperatures around 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. They take a bit more patience than oyster mushrooms, but the technique is well established, and kits are widely available. If you are finding this useful so far, hit subscribe. We cover gardening and homesteading tips like this every week, all designed to save your back, your budget, and your time. Now, the mushrooms we have covered so far are mainly culinary. The next 3 are where things get medicinal. Number 8. Lion's mane mushroom. Lion's mane looks like nothing else in the mushroom kingdom. It's a big, fluffy, white pom-pom that grows on the sides of hardwood logs and stumps. And it's earned a reputation as the brain mushroom because of compounds it contains called hexaconins and arenacenes. These compounds stimulate the production of something called nerve growth factor in your body, and nerve growth factor is exactly what it sounds like. It helps your nerve cells grow and repair themselves. Researchers are studying lion's mane in connection with Alzheimer's disease, depression, and nerve regeneration. And while the science is still developing, it's some of the most promising mushroom research happening right now. When it comes to eating, lion's mane has a seafood-like texture that many people compare to crab meat. Sliced thick and seared in butter, it's genuinely delicious. Growing it at home takes normal indoor lighting, not sunlight, just a regular lamp. From a 5-pound block, you can expect up to 2.5 pounds of mushrooms. The main thing to watch for is good AIR circulation, because high carbon dioxide levels will cause lion's mane to grow in strange coral-like shapes instead of the full, fluffy form you want. Crack a window or run a small fan nearby. Number 9. Shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake have been cultivated in China and Japan for over 800 years, making them one of the oldest deliberately farmed foods on the planet. They are packed with umami flavor, which is why they are a backbone of Asian cooking. They need ambient indoor light for fruiting, but nothing special. A room that is bright enough to comfortably read a book in is bright enough for shiitake. From a 5-pound block, expect 1.5 to 2.5 pounds of mushrooms, though you will need patience. Colonization takes 8 to 12 weeks, plus a unique browning phase where the block develops a tough outer skin before it is ready to fruit. But here is the most astonishing fact about shiitake. If you take your harvested mushrooms and lay them gills up in direct sunlight for about 6 hours, their vitamin D content skyrockets. Dried shiitake can go from around 100 international units of vitamin D to nearly 46,000 international units per 100 grams. That is an increase of 460 times. Mushrooms are the only non-animal food on Earth that produces vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, and it works even after they have been picked. So you can grow them in the dark, Then charge them with sunshine, like little vitamin D batteries. Number 10. Reishi mushrooms. Reishi have been called the mushroom of immortality in Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. You won't be eating them for dinner, though. Reishi are extremely bitter and woody, so they are always processed into teas, tinctures, or dried powder for capsules. They grow slowly. We are talking 3 to 6 months from inoculation to harvest, and you will only get one flush. But reishi are nearly foolproof because they can fruit right inside their sealed grow bag through the filter patch, which means contamination risk is very low. Reishi mushrooms are phototropic, meaning they grow toward whatever light source is nearby. Some growers actually use this to sculpt their mushrooms into artistic shapes by repositioning a small lamp every few days. It is one of the more meditative growing projects you can take on. They contain compounds called triterpenes and polysaccharides that have documented anti-inflammatory and immune-supporting properties. Research is ongoing, but reishi has one of the longest track records of any medicinal mushroom. That wraps up our mushroom section. 6 species, each with different strengths, all growable in dark or dimly lit spaces at home. Now we are moving into territory that most gardeners have never heard of. These next 2 plants are not just tolerant of darkness, they are actually made better by it. In Yorkshire, England, there is a 9-square-mile triangle of farmland between the towns of Wakefield, Morley, and Rothwell. It is called the rhubarb triangle, and what happens there is one of the strangest agricultural traditions on earth. Rhubarb plants are grown outdoors for 2 full years, soaking up sunlight and storing enormous amounts of energy in their roots. Then, in winter, those roots are dug up and moved into long, heated sheds. The doors are sealed, the lights stay off, and the rhubarb is left in total, complete darkness. Inside those warm, pitch-black sheds, the roots think spring has arrived. They burn through all that stored energy in a desperate sprint to find sunlight that is not there. Without light, the plant converts its stored starches into sugar, and the stalks that emerge are dramatically sweeter than anything grown in a garden. Recipes made with forced rhubarb need about 40% less sugar. The stalks are a stunning crimson pink and so tender they practically melt, and they grow so fast, up to an inch per day, that you can actually hear them. Workers describe a popping, cracking, squeaking sound filling the dark sheds as the stalks push upward. The rhubarb is harvested by candlelight, not flashlight, not headlamp. Candles, because even a brief burst of electric light would trigger the plants to start producing chlorophyll, turning the stalks green and ruining the delicate sweetness. At its peak in the early 1900s, this tiny patch of Yorkshire produced 90% of the world's winter-forced rhubarb. A dedicated freight train called the Rhubarb Express ran nightly to London, carrying up to 200 tons of the stuff. In 2010, Yorkshire forced rhubarb earned European Union protected designation of origin status, the same level of protection given to Champagne and Parmigiano Reggiano. After forcing, each root is completely exhausted and gets composted. It is a one-time harvest from 2 years of energy storage, and it is unlike anything else in agriculture. Now you can do a simplified version of this at home. If you have rhubarb growing in your garden, dig up a mature crown in late autumn after it has gone dormant, pot it up, and move it to a dark basement or garage kept between 50 and 68 degrees. In 6 to 8 weeks, you will have tender, sweet, pink stalks to harvest. Number 12. Belgian endive. The story of Belgian endive starts with an accident. In the 1830s, a farmer in Belgium left some chicory roots forgotten in his cellar over winter. When he went back down weeks later, he found the roots had sprouted dense, pale, torpedo-shaped clusters of leaves that were crisp, mild, and delicious. That accidental discovery became an entire industry. Today, Belgian endive is grown by deliberately forcing chicory roots in complete darkness. The roots are first grown outdoors in a field for about 5 months, then dug up, cold stored, and placed in dark forcing rooms at 55 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This forcing happens in complete darkness. Within 3 to 4 weeks, each root produces a tight, pale chicon that weighs a few ounces. Any exposure to light turns the leaves green and intensely bitter, so commercial growers handle them with extreme care. Even at the grocery store, endive is packaged in paper-lined boxes to keep light out. In the 1970s, endive was the most grown vegetable in all of Belgium. Modern operations use hydroponic forcing rooms stacked 8 or 9 trays high, producing chicons year-round. At home, you can force endive if you can get your hands on chicory roots. Plant chicory seeds in spring, dig the roots in fall, trim the tops, and force them in a box of damp sand in a dark basement. It takes some planning, but the result is a gourmet salad green that costs $5 to $6 a pound at the store. Those were our true darkness vegetables. Now we're stepping into the low light category. These next plants need a window, but barely. A dim, north-facing sill that most gardeners would consider useless is plenty for these. Number 13. Garlic greens. This one is almost embarrassingly simple. Take a garlic clove, any garlic clove, even one that has already started sprouting in your pantry. Push it pointy end up into a small pot of soil or even just a cup of water. Set it on a windowsill or start it in a dark cupboard and move it to a window after the shoot appears. In about 10 days, you will have bright green shoots that taste like mild garlic, somewhere between a scallion and a garlic clove. Snip them with scissors and use them anywhere you would use chives or green onions. Each clove will keep producing greens for a few weeks before its stored energy runs out. It is the perfect way to use garlic that has gone soft or started sprouting in the back of the kitchen drawer. Instead of throwing it away, plant it and eat the greens. Number 14. Chervil. If you have ever cooked French food, you may have come across chervil in recipes for omelets, cream sauces, or spring salads. It is one of the classic French fines herbs, along with parsley, tarragon, and chives. What makes chervil special for dark growers is that it is possibly the most shade-loving culinary herb in existence. While most herbs crave sun, chervil actually bolts and dies in too much sun. Shade is not a compromise with chervil, it is what it wants. 2 to 4 hours of indirect light from a dim window is ideal. The flavor is delicate, an anise-like licorice note that disappears if you cook it too long. Always add chervil at the very end of cooking, or better yet, use it fresh. Do not bother drying it because the flavor will not survive. You might have heard that mint needs full sun, but that's not quite accurate. Mint actually performs better in partial shade than in direct sunlight. The leaves stay more tender, the flavor is less harsh, and the plant is less likely to dry out and get leggy. A north-facing window with 3 to 4 hours of indirect light is genuinely enough for mint to thrive. Growth will be a bit slower than it would be in a bright, sunny window, but mint is so vigorous that it still produces plenty of usable leaves. Keep the soil consistently moist and pinch the growing tips regularly to encourage bushy growth instead of long, floppy stems. Peppermint tea is one of the oldest and most effective home remedies for digestive discomfort and headaches, and having a living plant on your windowsill means you're never more than a few seconds from a fresh cup. Number 16. Pea shoots. We are crossing into our final category now, plants that need just a cheap LED bulb to unlock their full potential in a windowless room. Pea shoots start their life in total darkness. You soak whole dried peas overnight, spread them on a tray of damp soil, and stack another tray on top to keep them in the dark for 5 to 7 days. During this blackout phase, the shoots push upward and develop thick, pale stems. After about a week, you unstack the trays and give them light, any light. A basic LED bulb, a grow light strip, even a bright window. Within another week or so, the shoots green up and are ready to harvest. But here is where it gets interesting. Those pale, yellow pea shoots, grown entirely in darkness, are actually a gourmet product. High-end restaurants serve etiolated pea shoots as a delicacy because they are incredibly sweet and tender, with a flavor that is more concentrated than the green version. Pea shoots also regrow after you cut them. You will get 2 to 3 harvests from a single planting before the roots give out. Half a cup of dried peas yields about 1 1/4 cups of shoots, and they are rich in vitamins A, C, and K. Number 17. Wheatgrass. Wheatgrass follows a similar pattern to pea shoots. The seeds germinate in darkness for 2 to 3 days, then need light to produce that bright green grass people juice at health food bars. A basic LED grow light strip is all you need. 1 cup of dry wheat berries covers a standard 10 by 10 inch growing tray and produces roughly 10 ounces of juice when pressed. At a typical juice bar, 10 ounces of wheatgrass would cost you about $27. Homegrown, the cost is closer to 50 cents. The grass reaches harvestable height of 6 to 10 inches in 7 to 12 days. Cut it with scissors just above the soil line and juice it right away for the freshest flavor. Despite what you might read online, wheatgrass is genuinely gluten-free. Gluten exists only in the grain itself, not in the grass blades. Number 18. Radish microgreens. Our final plant on this list is one of the fastest growing microgreens you can find. Radish microgreens go from seed to harvest in 5 to 7 days total, and they pack a serious nutritional punch. A 1/4 cup of radish microgreens delivers 60% of your daily vitamin C, and they contain roughly 39 times more provitamin A than a mature radish. As sprouts grown in a jar, radish seeds need total darkness for 3 to 6 days. When grown as microgreens on a tray of soil, they get a 2 to 3 day blackout phase under a weighted tray, then light for the rest. Like the others in this section, a basic LED is more than enough. The flavor is a bright, peppery kick that wakes up sandwiches, salads, and soups. Because they grow so quickly, you can start a new tray every few days and have a continuous supply of fresh greens rolling through your kitchen. And that brings us to 18. If you're wondering where to start, here's the simplest path I can give you. This week, go to the grocery store and pick up a bag of mung beans and a pack of lentils. Total cost, maybe $4 or $5. Start sprouting them in a mason jar on your kitchen counter tomorrow morning. You'll be eating your first harvest by the weekend. Next week, order a mushroom grow kit online. Oyster mushrooms are the best beginner choice. Set it up in a closet or bathroom with a single LED bulb and a spray bottle. Your first flush of fresh gourmet mushrooms will be ready in about 3 to 4 weeks. And when you're ready to go further, add a $15 LED grow light strip from any hardware store. Pick up some dried whole peas and a bag of wheat berries, and you'll have pea shoots, wheatgrass, and radish microgreens rotating through your kitchen in continuous harvests. No sunny yard required, no greenhouse, no expensive setup, just a few jars, a few bags of seeds, and the darkest room in your home doing exactly what it was always meant to do. If you want more ideas for growing food in small spaces with easy, body-friendly methods, click the video on screen. I'll see you there.